on right now. So in today's episode, we're going to be discussing why I like to have a boyfriend and why I'm glad I don't have a boyfriend. So this is an asexual perspective. And this is my perspective. So asexuality is a sexual orientation that's based on a lack of sexual attraction. And I discovered I'm in fact hetero-asexual, not heterosexual, in 2014. So for an asexual like me who's sex repulsed, you might think, why am I even interested in a relationship whatsoever? But hear me out, because a relationship is not just based on sex, and it doesn't have to be based on sex at all. This is a conception the society has drawn up, which insists that people who have a relationship should have sex in order to make it a relationship. But the fact of the matter is, we're having relationships all the time with different types of people: working relationships, family relationships, relationships with our pets and siblings if we've got them. I don't have any brothers or sisters. And you don't have to have sex in order to have a romantic relationship, because romance and sex are two different things. So there are times as a sex repulsed asexual that I really wished I had a boyfriend. And there are other times I'm really glad I don't. And they're not all to do with sex. So in this video, I'm going to be explaining to you what those are. So let's dive in. So today I've had to go to Aldi. And Aldi is at the opposite end of my city to where I live. I used to live like diagonally opposite there, but I don't anymore. So now I live the opposite end of the city, but I have to get soy milk from there. And last time I went, they didn't have the ones I liked. So they had cheaper ones. So I bought like 12 cheaper ones, and they really affected my tummy badly. So I had to go and get as many as I could get this time. They didn't have the more expensive ones last time. So I went and specifically got this soy milk today, and I had to carry 20 in a shopping trolley by myself. So this is a time when I would love to have had a boyfriend helping me out, preferably with a car, because I don't drive, to actually like lift them in a car or even help carry them back home for me. So I had a shopping trolley, but lugging 20 soya milks up a hill in a shopping trolley, a really steep hill from the quayside, in order to get home is not an easy task. It might sound easy, but it's really not. And so times when I have to do heavy lifting is when I really think, gosh, I wish I had a boyfriend now that could just help me lift this up the stairs, or like go shopping with me and help me carry bags and stuff like that. But just because, hi in chat, just because if I had a boyfriend and I did have to do these things, it doesn't mean to say he would help me out anyway, right? So we have to get real that the reality is some guys don't do stuff like that for their woman. Some guys are lazy. Some guys don't want to be doing things like that. And so if that was the case, then I'm glad I don't have a boyfriend, because I did manage to do that by myself. And I have a pain condition called fibromyalgia. So that is really hard for me to do. And I'm still recovering from a back injury. I broke 2 vertebrae in my spine in April. So I'm under physio, and I've been doing physio exercises since the beginning of May. So I've got a lot more stronger in my body, a lot more stronger in my muscles and stuff. So I've, really been working hard to get my physical strength back. And sometimes I feel I got more strength than before I broke my back in my body, because of all the physiotherapy exercises I had to extensively undergo for 5 months. And it's not easy when you break your spine to be able to do. I think I broke my ribs as well, but there's no evidence of that. I mean, the pain that I had was the evidence, but there's no evidence on the x-ray, because they don't x-ray ribs in the UK anymore. And so yes, so I've been working really hard. So I had to go shopping on my own today, and I'm like, I really wished I had a boyfriend that would just come along in his car and just like, yeah, what do you want? Let me run you down to Aldi and let's just go and get the stuff you need, This is providing the boyfriend was kind and caring, and, he didn't mind doing that type of thing. But if there was a boyfriend who didn't like doing that type of thing, then there's no point, do you know what I mean? Because it's like, well, if I can do it and I've actually got a pain condition and I've got a back injury I'm recovering from, and you can't even be bothered to help me out. Obviously, if he's working, that's different. But if it's just a case he's lazy and can't be bothered to help me out, then that's different. And I have had, even my ex-boyfriend this year, he told me he was a lazy guy. So just because I'm saying about a guy being lazy, I've actually had a guy say that to me. You know, it's not just me saying, not all guys are lazy, far from it. But there are ones out there that are lazy and can't be bothered to help a woman, girl out, right? So in that case, I'm thinking, well, it's easier just to get on and do it myself. And then I don't need a boyfriend because it's like, well, I can do that myself, right? Because I'm an asexual person, like I said, who's sex repulsed, and I don't need sex. So I don't need a boy for sex. I don't need him to get married because I'm not interested in marriage. I don't need to live with him. I prefer not to live with him, and I don't want kids, right? So I don't need a guy for sex, marriage, kids, or to live together, which is a lot of what guys are driven to provide or want or need or do, right? And I don't want any of that. I prefer a guy to come and live near me but not with me. So ideally round the corner, down the road, this type of thing in my city. So yeah, if he could move, it would be good. So again, I don't do long distance relationships. I have tried that in the past and they just don't work for me. Like, even though I'm asexual and sexual orientation, I absolutely love kissing. So I love kissing. I love being in person with the guy, holding his hand, kissing and cuddling, chatting. So I need in-person time. So some people are like, oh, you're asexual, you don't need sex. Why do you need to be together in the same country? It's because I still have relationship needs. I still have physical closeness needs. Like, one of my love languages is physical touch. So despite the fact I don't want sexual touch, I do still love physical touch. And there's huge myths surrounding asexuality that all asexuals, they don't like any physical closeness or touching. Some asexuals are touch averse. They don't want any touching at all. Some just want a pat on the shoulder or a hug. And, you know, there are people like me who do want a lot of physical affection. And I just don't want the sex. So it's very, very important that if you're going to get into a relationship, you try to find someone who wants what you want. And when I don't want to get into a relationship is when I feel very independent, when I feel that I can do more than a guy could do for me. I'm like, what's the point in me getting into a relationship if I make myself happy and I can do more than a guy would do for me? Do you know what I mean? Like, what's the point? It means that I'm being slowed down or held back by him sometimes. Do you know what I mean? And I don't want that in my life. If I do more for myself than he would ever do for me, then it's just like, if I have him as well, then it's just like, it's not going to work, because it's kind of like, well, you're not doing anything good in my life. So what's the point? I'm helping myself more than you're helping me. Do you know what I mean? And I don't think it's right for a guy to just see a girl struggle and stuff like that. You know, I think if a guy's going to be in a relationship with a girl, he should be supporting her and stuff like that. So there are times when physically I wished I had a guy to help me, like I said, carry stuff up the stairs and everything else. But just because if I had a guy, didn't mean to say that he would be like that anyway. That's what I'm trying to say. So you can't assume that just because a guy is a guy and a woman is a woman, they do traditional gender roles. We're living in the 21st century now. I mean, it's the end of 2024, right? December 2024 we are in when I'm recording this live for you. And a lot of guys have changed in the way they do things. Some guys are very lazy these days. Some guys, they don't want to do much for a woman. Do you know what I mean? And they're very focused on themselves. So there's times when I don't want to be in a relationship with a guy, when all he thinks about is himself, when he's lazy, when he has physical strength, but he doesn't use it in a good way. He believes in physical fighting, yet he doesn't believe in physically carrying stuff for a girl when he's clearly got the muscles to do it, you know? I'm glad I don't have a boyfriend when I see guys who are unhealthy, they're narcissistic, they're avoidant, they don't want to communicate, they don't actually want a relationship, they're trying to avoid a relationship, they're trying to avoid intimacy. You know, these are the times when I'm really glad I don't have a boyfriend, because not wanting intimacy, not being a team player, for example, being very selfish, is just gonna drag me down. It's very, very dragging down. Do you know what I mean? You've got to be in a relationship with someone who equally wants a relationship as much as you do, and to be happy having a relationship, and who really looks forward to working as a team together. So I think that's really important, to find a good person, you know? And sometimes it's hard to find that person. I think there's a lot of people on dating sites. For example, I've been on dating sites for 10 years. This year, after my relationship breakup, I didn't go back to actively date. The first time in 10 years, I'm like, no, I'm going to take time out for me. I'm going to heal from that relationship. I'm going to make sure I'm focused on me. It was hard to do because when you're heartbroken, you immediately want people to talk to, and you can kind of go and talk to other guys. If you're into guys, I'm into guys only, and that kind of like makes you feel better in some ways, like, oh, there are other guys interested in me, but I know there are other guys interested in me anyway. I don't need to go on a dating site to know that, because I get guys randomly coming in my inbox on Facebook all the time, or guys that have tried to like talk to me before, like showing up a year later. I've had that recently, right? And so I don't need to actually be on dating sites to have guys in my inbox. But when I had that relationship breakup, it was a time when I would have liked, in part, to talk to other guys, because it's like, it's nice to have people to talk to, and it's nice to have other guys showing interest, particularly when you're feeling down. But the problem with that is you can become reliant on other people then for external validation, and you can become reliant on other people to make you feel better all the time. So I've been on a dating detox this year at the same time as when I split up with my ex this year. And so that was the hardest thing to do, going on a dating detox the same time as you've split up with your boyfriend. Yeah. And that was a hard relationship to split up from, but it was good that it ended because it wasn't healthy for me. So I got my confidence back. So I lost confidence in that relationship, and I got my confidence and self-esteem back, which is really, really important. So the times when I don't want to be with a boyfriend, don't want to be in a relationship, is when, and if I get into a relationship and the person makes me feel down or about myself, the person uses things about me against myself, the person's narcissistic, the person isn't listening actively, the person isn't actually caring about what I'm saying, the person doesn't care enough about me. These are the times when I'm glad I don't have a boyfriend, because all this negativity, the fact that someone's not that invested in you, or doesn't care about you, or doesn't care if they hurt you, this is not actually good. This is unhealthy, and it drags you down. It drags your confidence down, your self-esteem down, and it makes you feel bad in your life. And this is a time when I'm really glad I don't have a boyfriend. Like, my self-esteem and confidence since I ended that relationship has gone up and up and up, back up again, till I'm much, much more happier on my own now. Another good thing is when I go to the cinema, I don't have anyone complaining. This hasn't been with all boyfriends, but some past exes, they've complained about the fact that, oh, you chose a film that they don't like. And I always like to watch the trailers the credits, right? I do watch the trailers sometimes, but not always. But I watch some of the trailers, but I'm usually going to the toilet at that time. But it's the credits at the end. I like to watch the credits, especially because I do no sex movie reviews on this channel. And I went on a self-date this morning, and I saw Transformers 1. It's amazing. I'm going to review that soon. And I watched the credits, and there was something at the very, very end of the credits, which is really important to the whole story, right? And so there was like two little bits, but one was right at the end when all the credits are finished. But everyone who's left before then doesn't get to see that, because they don't stay. So I love being patient. I'll stay there in the whole of the cinema. I'll be the very last one. And I'll have people like come in, staff like clearing and cleaning the areas there where other people have been. But I stay there because I want to make sure I do proper movie reviews while I've seen the end of it. And I like seeing the very last credits. I want to know, is there any more to the storyline that I'm missing? And sometimes they show the most important bit after all the credits have gone. So that was kind of like what happened in Transformers 1. So if you are going to see it, watch it. But, some boyfriends, ex-boyfriends, and some guys would complain about that, because they're like, oh, what's the point? Let's just go. But I'm not interested in that. So I feel it's better being single, because I can just go to a movie. I haven't got someone telling me, oh, you chose the wrong movie, or I don't like that movie, rah, 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 and putting the movie down and making me feel bad about it and spoiling my enjoyment of it. And same with the credits. I don't have a guy telling me to hurry up, get out, and making me feel bad that I should credits. I can just chill out there on my own. I don't have to worry about another person. And that's the beauty of being single. You don't have anyone else to worry about but yourself. And that's a time when I love being single. I'm like, there's no drama in my life apart from other people. Like, obviously there's always going to be drama to a certain extent when you're having to deal with different people in life. Do you know what I mean? Like, for example, I haven't got hot water consistently in my kitchen at the moment, and it's causing me a real lot of issues. I'm having to go through the letting agency to get someone to come and look at it, but the letting agency are basically trying to get me to go directly to the person that they've put me in contact with, and the contractor hasn't even arranged a time to come out. And basically it's like, oh, I'll call you, and that's it, not answering my calls anymore. So it's like, do you know what I mean? That's quite urgent because it's hot water. Luckily I've got a mini dishwasher, you know. And it's times like that when I feel glad I've not got a boyfriend, if that's the state of the way this is. Like, I'm having to deal with guys, and this is what's happening from guys, but not all guys are like that, you know. But when you get this type of drama going on and just stress, you don't need it. And that's the time when I think I'm so glad I don't have a boyfriend, because in the relationship this year, it wasn't good ending. And it, like I said, it actually lowered my self-esteem and confidence. And it was quite traumatic in the end. And I felt really devastated at the time, you know, and it hurt so much. But I think, you know, if it had been a healthy guy, even if it had ended, it wouldn't have ended like in that way. And like I said, there's a lot of drama sometimes, and you know, it's just good to not have all that drama in life. And sometimes it's good to just focus on me and not have anyone else to worry about, because I do have anxiety. I've got an anxious attachment style, and so therefore I worry a lot about things, especially to do with other people, because they're out of my control, and things that I wish would happen, you know. So one of the things I think is great about being single is I don't have anything to worry about like that, you know. I've not got a person that I have to be thinking about, you know, phoning them or texting them. I do have a best friend that I text, and I do have a good friend as well. So I do have obligations to them, but they're not like you've got to be obligated to them, but it is to keep the friendship going, you know. But I know there's some people who value relationships a lot and love them. And I think if you're with someone who equally values a relationship and wants to work as part of a team, then that's the time I would like to be in a relationship with the right person, because the right person gets excited about being in a relationship, who values it a lot and appreciates it and consistently feels that way. That is kind of a treasure, you know. That's a treasure in a trash situation, if you know what I mean. Because I feel there's a lot of people these days in the world that are not really valuing serious, committed, romantic relationships anymore. And I still have a strong need for romance. And so from the point of view of romance, that is when I need and think about a boyfriend, having a boyfriend, because I have kissing needs. There's only so much I can kiss myself, and it's not satisfied in the same way as if I had a boyfriend and was kissing him. Do you know what I mean? There's only so much, like I say, you can kiss yourself. So there's the times when I feel I wish I had a boyfriend is to do with like heavy lifting of things, for example. Having a team player, having someone who's got my back and I've got their back, if you know what I mean. Having someone who really is excited and enthusiastic about a relationship. I've got 2 friends, but other than that, I don't have, you know, in terms of romantic relationship, I haven't got anyone in my life that's like really excited for having a romantic relationship. Not in terms of like, you know, with me, for example. But I am in Matthew Hussey's Love Life Club, and he's married now, and he loves his wife implicitly, and she loves relationships. And so they get on really well because they both wanted a relationship. They're both in a relationship they want, you know, so they want to make it work. And that's the difference, because when you've got someone who wants to be in a relationship, they will put time, energy, and effort into it because they know it's a core component of their life they want. And I think the relationships that are most successful that I see are ones where the people actually want to be in a relationship. They want to make it work. They see it as a fundamental part of their life that they really don't want to be without. It's like one of their needs, if you know what I mean. have basic needs like food and shelter and warmth, this type of thing. And some people love a relationship to the point where they feel it's a basic need of theirs, that they, it's something that they really want in their life. It's an ambition, if you like. But there are a lot of people nowadays, guys as well, that are not seeing the value in a relationship. They're just seeing like trouble and drama themselves, and and not seeing the value in being with the 21st century girl, if you like, because they got very traditional ideas of gender roles, like the woman's in the kitchen or whatever, the guy goes out to work, the woman looks after the kids, and I'm completely different like that. And so for me, I'm so glad when I can be single and I can come home like 2 a.m. in the morning if I want. I can sleep till midday. I can get up at whatever time I want. Usually I like to sleep at 4 a.m. and get up at midday, because I usually like to do my writing and work in the night, because I feel better like that. So for me, to be able to work on my own schedule in my own time, not have to match my schedule to anyone else's, that actually is a blessing, because I can just relax and chill on my own schedule, So for me, like, being in a relationship is quite difficult. I can't usually sleep with the person either. I find it very difficult to sleep next to a person, so I can't really consistently sleep in a bed with the guy. If I do, I might get 2 hours sleep. That's not sustainable. No one can live on 2 hours of sleep every night. So that's why I prefer to live in separate places, and I prefer to sleep separately. Not from a romantic point of view. From a romantic point of view, I want to be kissing and cuddling next to the guy, but from a I need practical sleep point of view, then that's when I feel better. Like, I haven't got a boyfriend, because sometimes just like, I sleep later when I want to actually sleep and feel tired, right? I think when you're in a relationship, it's hard because you kind of feel obliged to go to sleep earlier when they need to sleep, if they sleep early, which most people do. So I think for me personally, I get really happy when I'm single and I have my freedom to like watch whatever movies I want to watch, be happy with the movies I choose, watch the end of the credits. I'm very strong, so yeah, I could do with a guy lifting stuff for me, and I think I wish I had a boyfriend to lift this now, but I can still do that on my own for the most part, not all of it, for the most part. And also, I don't like a guy if he's not really into having a relationship, if he's not really serious about it, if he's not really invested in it, because you have to have someone that's equally invested in you and in a relationship, in the actual ideology of a relationship as well. And if you've got people that are avoiding an intimacy and avoiding relationships, for example, if they've got an avoidant attachment style, then even if they might like the idea of a relationship, like the romance themselves and the physicality, they don't want the actual practical application of being consistent and persistent in communication, in arranging dates and stuff like that. So that's something that does really bug me. There seems to be a lack of people out there that are, this is my personal experience, hopefully, this is not the experience of everyone, that I like a guy to arrange dates in advance, to have something on the calendar, something in the diary with me, so I always know the next time I'm seeing him, because I think it's well organised that way and it sets my mind at ease, right? But when I don't know when a guy's going to see me next, that just brings chaos to my life. And being in the relationship that I was in earlier on this year, it was very chaotic. The guy was very chaotic for my liking, too chaotic, too all over the place, too not well organised, and it's kind of me driving things forward. And I don't want to be like that. I don't want to be the person who's driving things forward, because that feels unequal then. So these are times when I feel I'm so happy I'm not got a boyfriend, I'm not in a relationship, because I don't want to be the person that's just like messaging first or arranging dates first and driving the relationship forward and planning. They should be doing that as well. So I guess I'm looking for a specific type of guy that's like an action taker and a go-getter, and someone who likes to be consistent, likes to be organized like me, like, yeah, let's make a date for next week, like, and who's consultative. You get some guys who just dictate, and it's like, oh, I'm just free this day or that day, and that's it. And it's like, well, where's the consultation in that, And relationships are about, healthy relationships where it's more equal, are about consulting with each other. Like, when would you be free? When would you be free? Let's work this out. And so I don't like it if any guys are dictating, because I kind of feel it's unequal. So I do like the fact if I can manage my life a lot better myself, if I can live things myself, if I can be strong, because then it makes me feel much better about myself. Like, I don't actually need a guy. What do I need a guy for, you know? And so those are the times that I do wish I had a guy. And in terms of kissing and physical closeness, I do like intellectual, stimulating conversation. So sometimes that is, it's in like the business associations I have, but it's not so much in other ways. But I do have two friends, one best friend, one good friend, who are intellectual, I would say. But I would like someone who has other topics to bring to the table as well, and in a romantic sense especially, you know? So, like, I like to talk about the world, planet, and universe. Do you know what I mean? And so I think, intellectual conversation is very stimulating. So those are times when I wish I had a boyfriend, like, for intellectual stimulating conversation. I think like soulmate, bestest ever friendship is really important in a relationship as well. I think if you're not like best friends, you won't have each other's back. You won't want to fight for the relationship. You won't want to be with that person. Do you know what I mean? So I think that, you have to find someone who basically wants the same type of relationship as you do, and then it'll be a lot more harmonious. But relationships take work. All relationships take work. So sometimes, you know what I mean, you just want relief. You just want to think, oh, I just want a sense of relief, and I just want to relax and chill out. And so from the point of view of being single, sometimes I'm just happy I'm not in a relationship, because I'm thinking I don't have the drama. I don't have to like do as much work. I can make time for myself more. I can watch the movies, whatever I want, do what I want when I want, and I like that freedom, So the times when I really value being single, I really love being single. I really prefer it. I like to spend time on my own. I like to spend time doing my own thing. I like to not be tied down to times. I like to be able to be free to go to sleep when I want, get up when I want. I like to be free in my own bed, to have as much space as possible as well. And from a point of view of a sex repulsed asexual that I am, being in a relationship with heterosexual, for example, can be very difficult. Like, so if I'm talking from an asexual perspective here, sex repulsed, like, some guys have got very big sex drives, and to keep a guy happy all the time like that, while with not having sex, but doing some other stuff like kissing passionately, maybe touching them and stuff like that, then it's kind of hard to maintain that level of still making them excited and stuff like that when you're not really that into it yourself. Like, I prefer just the kissing, and then if I'm with a heterosexual guy, things can get too sexual for me, and then it's like it's too overwhelming because I'm not sexually focused. If a heterosexual guy's a very sexual being, then it can get very difficult trying to sustain giving them pleasure but without actually having sex, if you know what I mean. That can be very, very difficult. It can be quite energy draining, and also it can be quite overwhelming for me personally, because it gets to the point where it's too sexual and it feels uncomfortable for me, and it's like this is just too much, because I just love the kissing. I just want to be engrossed in kissing for hours, because I'm a hyper kisser as well, so I like kissing for long periods of time, all the time pretty much when I'm with the guy. So for me, I'm kind of like an all or nothing girl, so I'd rather be single and on my own, even if I don't hardly ever kiss guys, or not that often, than be with a guy who doesn't kiss me that much in a relationship, who doesn't give me much kissing, who only does a little bit of kissing. That would be no good for me. I'd feel deprived and repressed and suppressed, because I have a lot of kissing energy, and I have a lot of needs in terms of kissing. So I think it's very, very important that that I get those kissing needs met, and I couldn't be in a relationship where that wasn't happening. Similarly, I love to hold hands with the person, kiss and hold hands, and be kissing in public as well. So I would rather be single forever than be with a guy who didn't hold my hand in public or wasn't into public kissing. That's how strongly I feel about it. I was with a guy years ago and he wouldn't hold my hand in public, and I felt like a like caged animal. That's how I felt. And I like my freedom to be able to kiss my guy and to hold his hand wherever I want. I say my guy, I haven't got a guy, right? But if I did, so I need a guy who equally wants to kiss and hold hands in public and loves all that type of thing, So I think that being single is a much better option unless you get your needs met in a relationship with someone who equally has the same sort of needs as you and who enjoys fulfilling your needs, right? There are some people who are asexual who like touching but not being touched. There are some that like being touched but not touching the other person. There's a lot of different needs in terms of a relationship to do with asexuals, because asexuality is such a big spectrum of identities. We all stem from the same lack of sexual attraction, but there's all variations depending on the individual asexual as to how much physical contact that person wants with another person, such as like a little bit of touching, a lot touching, naked touching, not naked touching, doing everything but the sex. And all different types of asexuals have different experiences with this. Yes, I am single, and so I'm saying like that if I had like times I wish I had a boyfriend and times I'm glad I don't, so which means I'm happy to be single. So sometimes I'm like 50-50 on it. Sometimes like 50% I'd like a boyfriend, 50% I definitely don't want a boyfriend. So I'm kind of quite neutral and a bit up and down with it. Sometimes like when I want romance and kissing and cuddling and a guy who's physically strong carrying stuff for me, then I think I'd really like a boyfriend right now. and it'd be good. And I think about good times with a guy, like the companionship, if you like, but the kissing and the romance and having intellectual conversations and just having the excitement of like walking hand in hand under the stars, going out on dates, chatting together till the early hours of the morning, all this exciting stuff, right? That's the good side of a relationship. But then when I think about the downside for me personally, because I don't want sex, I don't want marriage, I don't want kids, I prefer to live separately. The downside is being tied down more to times with the person, having different lifestyle times, because I like to be working throughout the night. Most guys I come across do 9-to-5 jobs or something like that, which is not on my timeline, right? I usually a lot of the time wake up at midday. I go to sleep at 4 a.m. because I do my work later on in the day. I'm a night person, an evening person. I like to go out. I'm an extrovert. I'm a rare extrovert asexual. Most asexuals are introverted. So a lot of the guys I'm coming across are not as into a relationship as I am. If I was into a relationship, then I'd be full on into it, if you know what I mean. Like it's a central part of one of the things I would like, right? But having said that, I'm actually happier being single because I absolutely love being single. I love having the freedom to do whatever I want when I want. My oven's just pinged off now. Eat when I want, eat whatever I want. And so it's so important. And so I don't have a guy telling me what to do, what to wear, how to look, how to speak, and I love all the freedom of that. I love just being my absolute self and really being my true authentic self, which I think is so important, right? It's so important. There's so many people that are not being true to who they are, including a lot of guys, actually. I'm coming across a lot of guys that aren't actually being their authentic self. And what they do is they get into a relationship with someone due to being excited, but they can't keep up how they are portraying themselves to be to the girl, because they are literally trying to portray a fantasy to the girl and fantasizing about the girl. Therefore, they get into a relationship or romantic scenario under false pretenses that's not sustainable. So that's the time when I'm glad I don't have a boyfriend. I don't want a guy. I get lots of guys fantasizing about me, right? Fantasizing and actually being in a relationship are two completely different things. So I've come across a lot of guys who fantasize about being in a relationship or having a romantic encounter with me, but and they say that they want a serious relationship, but they actually don't. And so that can cause a lot of upset and pain. And that's when I'm really happy to be single. I don't have any of that drama. I don't have a guy not knowing what the hell he wants. I don't have a guy causing me disruptions to my life. I don't have a guy telling me how to speak or what to wear or what to do or how to be or how to live my life. And those are the times when I really love being single. And like I said, from an asexual point of view, someone who's sex repulsed, I don't have to like try to keep a heterosexual guy happy, for example, without having sex. I would never have sex, so I'm not interested and I won't do stuff I don't want to do, right? So any guy who's with me has to know that, right? But it's still a level of degree of sexual excitement that heterosexuals have that kind of needs to be maintained and sustained, and that can be really difficult, especially if you're sex repulsed asexual, because even the sexual excitement within the person can be quite overwhelming. Some of it's, some of it's like, it's not their fault, like if a guy gets an erection, he can't help it, can he? If he sees if he finds me attractive, he can't help that. And I'm okay with that. Some asexuals are not even okay with that. They don't like a guy having an erection. They can't stand it and all that type of stuff. So it really does depend on what type of person the asexual is, what they can stand and what they can't stand. Actually, nearly all my relationships have been with heterosexual guys, and the majority of my relationships throughout my life have been with heterosexual guys. I've only ever had a online relationship with a guy who was asexual, and I don't even know if he was asexual. I think he might have lied about it. So if he did lie, then I have never had a relationship with another asexual person. But I have met sounds like you are asexual not by choice. Yes, I'm asexual not by choice. Asexuality isn't a choice. This is where people get asexuality wrong. Celibacy is a choice. Abstaining is a choice. That's not the same as being asexual. Asexuality is a genuine sexual orientation that's based on the lack of sexual attraction. I have an absence of sexual attraction. I don't get sexually attracted to anyone. I get attracted to guys in multiple ways, but not sexually. So I can kiss a guy for hours, literally, because I'm a hyper kisser. So I can kiss for hours and enjoy it for hours, but I don't get aroused in my body enough to want sex. I can get aroused in my body. I can experience arousal, but I don't experience any sexual attraction. I've got no sex drive. So libido and arousal are two different things. So libido, sex drive, is like you're driven towards sex. Arousal is just feeling in your genitalia, which I can get aroused by kissing, but I'm aroused by the kissing itself. Just thinking about kissing with no one involved, because I love kissing so much. That's where I get excitement from. So I am an asexual, which is not by choice, and asexuality isn't a choice. If someone's choosing to be asexual, they're not really asexual. You can't choose to be asexual. You can't choose your sexuality. And I was born asexual, but I didn't realise it. So looking back, I had my first heterosexual boyfriend at 6 years old. And that was like 6 years old. I was passionately kissing him at 6, but he wanted to do sexual stuff at 6 years old. And I didn't like that at all. I wasn't interested in that. My brain wasn't interested in that. Right? And I'm not interested in doing sexual stuff. I'm interested in the kissing. When you see a lot of teenage romance movies, and they have that type of relationship where they're chatting, they're like really good friends, they're like phoning each other up and texting each other a lot, they're kissing and cuddling, they're hanging out together, going on dates, doing cute little romantic stuff for each other. That's the type of relationship I like, but on a permanent basis with a guy in his early to mid-20s, ideally, because I like younger guys. But not teenager, obviously, not underage. I'm not that type of person. Legal age, and obviously different countries have different legal ages. The legal age for sex in the UK is actually 16. It's very, very young. I live in the UK, so very, very young. I don't have sex anyway, but I'm just saying, because that's technically they're kind of like an adult when they're 18, but they're old enough to be an adult in terms of sex when they're 16, people over here. So that's very young in my opinion. Some places are 18, some places are 21 in the world, you know what I mean? So it's very, very young, I think. I personally think the age of sex in the UK should change to 18 years old. I think 16 is far too young, really. But some people have sex underage anyway, don't they? Like teenagers are having sex with each other underage, like 15-year-olds and 14-year-olds and stuff like that. So it does happen whether we like it or not anyway. But I think it's better to have that later on in life if you're going to do it. But yeah, So I was actually pressurized into having sex when I was 16 by an older guy, a guy a few years older than me. And yeah, so that wasn't great. But I've had sex in the past, even though I'm asexual. And I had it because I felt I had to, I felt like, oh, I've got to do this because it's what society expects, it's what I'm told I've got to do in a relationship. But I wasn't really wanting the sex. I was just doing it to please the guy, and also because that's what society teaches us. And I loved the kissing. I just wanted kissing. At that time, I liked being touched as well, and that's all I wanted. I didn't want the sex. I wasn't interested in it. Was the last time I had sex was consensual with my last long-term ex, and he was good at that. So I had a good experience in terms of that, but I just would rather not bother doing that. You know what I mean? So I think it's quite hard, because I'm a hyper romantic and hyper kisser. That makes it harder for me to get an asexual guy, because most asexual guys are not really into kissing that much, and it's a central need for me in a relationship. And yeah, so I kind of have sexual behavior in the way I like to kiss and dance, but I don't have any sexual attraction whatsoever. So it's kind of hard because I'm sometimes suited more to a heterosexual guy in terms of the kissing and the romance and the physical affection, but I'm better suited to an asexual guy in terms of the fact I don't like or want or need sex. So it gets really hard for me. It's kind of like I'm stuck in between. I don't really fit into a typical asexual box, but I am definitely 100% asexual in terms of I don't experience any sexual attraction whatsoever. It doesn't matter how much I kiss. Like I've been with guys, like kissing them, for example, in clubs or after clubs and stuff like that, and they're like, how are you controlling yourself? How are you controlling those urges? I'm like, I don't get those urges. I don't get any urge for sex whatsoever. I just don't feel that way. I don't get that. I'm not wired that way. And that's the difference. When you're a pure asexual is someone who doesn't experience any sexual attraction whatsoever. You're not wired that way. When I see people, for example, on Diary of a CEO, and he's interviewing people about relationships and sex and stuff like that. And all I keep hearing is, oh, people are wired to have sex, it's human nature, it's in their DNA. People are wired that way, they're wired to cheat, they're wired to do this. I'm like, this is not for everyone. To say that as a blanket statement for everyone in the world is so wrong. And I wish I could go on Diary of a CEO and put the record straight, because it is just so untrue. Right? Some people in the world are wired not to have sex, not to want it, not to need it, not to like it, and not to have it as a component of a relationship. And the fact that people are still thinking you can only have a relationship if sex is involved is just so outdated thinking. And it's about time that people knew the truth. There are a lot of asexuals all around the globe, thousands of us, that live amongst the shadows a lot of the time, if you like, because people are afraid of coming out and saying they don't want or like or need sex. They're not interested in it. They're afraid of what their family will think, of what their co-workers will think, of what their peers will say, of what their siblings will say. They're fed up of society ridiculing stuff like that and keep going on and on about sex. And this makes a lot of asexuals go underground, if you like. They're not open like I am about being asexual. And that's what's another thing is so hard to find in a relationship, is the fact that a lot of asexual guys, for example, are not out about being asexual because of these reasons. Therefore, they don't want to be seen publicly with a girl like me who is all over the internet about being asexual. They want it kept quiet. They don't want everyone to know about it. This is not the same for every asexual guy. There's some asexual guys that are out about being asexual, but there's a lot that aren't. And I won't be with a guy and keep secrets because I share my own asexual life journey on this channel. I won't pretend to live a life that I'm not living. Like my last boyfriend this year, he was heterosexual. I pretty much, like I said, every boyfriend I have has been heterosexual. So guys I've dated have been heterosexual. So I understand how heterosexuals work. I thought I was heterosexual for years. What happened was I mistook my high levels of arousal for sexual attraction because I thought they were the same thing, but they're not. If someone kisses a person, you can get aroused. It doesn't mean to say you're sexually attracted to that person. You're enjoying or what they're doing, or you might not even be enjoying what they're doing. Like people who are sexually abused, for example, they can get aroused. They're not sexually attracted to the person who's abusing them. This is a very sensitive topic, but their body naturally responds in a physiological way for arousal. That doesn't mean to say they're sexually attracted to the person. It means they're responding to a physical or mental stimuli, and being aroused can be a mental thing. It doesn't have to be a physical thing. It doesn't have to be physically touching. It can be a mental thing. And a lot of people don't understand this. They think that arousal is just purely based on whether someone touches you or not. And that's not true. And there's people who are saying that sexual attraction is when you're aroused by another person. That isn't, as a blanket statement, sexual attraction, right? Sexual attraction is when you look at someone, you have the need, urge, or want to have partnered sexual intercourse with them. That's sexual attraction. Someone playing with your bits and you getting aroused is not the same as you being sexually attracted to that person. Sexual desire, for example, as well, is not the same as sexual attraction. Often they go together, but not necessarily. So, for example, if a heterosexual guy, for example, in a club says, I'm going to get laid tonight, before he's even spoke to any women, he's just arrived at the club with his mates, that is sexual desire. He's got the desire to have sex in and of itself, regardless of the person he's going to be doing that with. He just really wants the sex. He's got a huge sex drive. He desires the sex. So he might not even be sexually attracted to the person. It's just like a need that he's got to fulfill, right? So people get all of these things mixed up. I'm writing a book called Asexuality, which I haven't finished yet because I've moved home. And I was busy writing it and then had to move home. And that was quite a lot to do. And I'm still sorting things out in my new home. So that was a book. I'm like 3/4 of the way through or more of that. So yeah. And so that's a good book. So that will explain all these different things, the different types of attraction and about arousal and sexual desire and sexual attraction, the differences. But there is a book I wrote, which is a best-selling book called Asexual Perspectives. And this does dive deep into 47 different asexual perspectives. Mine's one of them. There's 46 other asexuals around the globe and across the different parts of the asexual spectrum. Not every part of the asexual spectrum's covered. I think there was like 200 sub-identities of asexuality, something like that. There's a lot anyway. And new identities are coming out, like emerging, right? So not every identity is in this book, but there's a lot. And this is different perspectives on love life and sex from an asexual point of view. So I do ask people's opinion, asexual people's opinion in this book, about what is the difference between arousal and sexual attraction, what's the difference between sexual desire and sexual attraction. So you can hear other different people's asexual perspectives, not just mine. This book is available on Amazon, by the way, and all good bookshops if you want to grab a copy. It's called Asexual Perspectives, 47 Asexual Stories, but you can just type it in if you want to know more about asexuality. It's very fascinating. I also dive into asking different asexuals, like how they discover they're asexual, what's the best advice they give to a younger person, a younger version of themselves, basically. What's the advice they give to themselves if they, knew themselves years ago when they first discovered asexuality? Like, what would be the advice to them? What would be advice to other people who are just discovering they're asexual? And, what do asexuals really think of masturbation, BDSM, kinks, and everything like that? It might shock you. There's some people who are asexual, they are into BDSM and kinky stuff. A lot of the time it's without the sexual intercourse, so they do other things, So asexuality is a big spectrum, and I hope that I'm bringing different awarenesses to asexuality by doing these live streams, And as an asexual person who's sex repulsed, sometimes I'm really happy that I'm not in a relationship, because I don't have to worry about trying to satisfy a guy in a sexual manner at all. I don't have to be something I'm not, and I don't have to have any pressure to have sex, or even if the guy's not pressurizing me, just knowing that he really wants that and I don't. That's quite difficult, or trying to satisfy him sexually without sex, you know what I mean? That can be quite hardcore. And there's kind of always a pressure there, even if the person isn't directly saying pressurizing things. So that can be really hard as well. So being relieved of all that when you're single, you don't have to worry about anything like that. It's very much a blessing a lot of the time, It's like, oh, I don't have to conform to society's way of being. I don't have to do things I'm not comfortable with. I don't have to do things to please my partner without me really being that interested. I don't have to maintain and sustain like his type of sexual energy in a way that's good for him, to the point where he's satisfied even if I'm not having sex with him. You know, that's kind of like gets very, very overwhelming when you're a sex repulsed asexual like I am. So that's just brilliant. And I like having my freedom, you know. So sometimes I get very like 50-50 on a relationship. Sometimes I'm like, I really would like a guy now. I think about the good times, like holding his hand, going down the street and having a date and just chatting till the early hours and being really super into each other, being really enthusiastic to see each other, you know, asking how each other's day's gone, checking in with each other. But unless that's the actual reality in real life, a guy I had like that consistently and persistently, then that isn't something that would be in my life, and that wouldn't be good. You know what I mean? Like having a healthy relationship versus an unhealthy relationship with someone it's like day and night. If you end up with someone who's unhealthy for you, like has completely different life goals, for example, different values, different morals, different ethics, different beliefs, and you end up falling in love with them or being highly attracted to them, it can be very dangerous for your self-esteem, very dangerous for your confidence. It can throw you off guard of your own life path as well. Like it can throw you completely off of your life path, because you might change the way you are or what you think and believe, or you might like let your values go a bit, because you might think the person's more important than, oh, I don't want to be so picky, so I'll like let this value slide, or I'll make this less important in my life. But if those things are really valuable and important to you in your life, then you should keep them in your life, because that's what makes you happy, and that's what makes you shine and be, you know, filled up. It's what fulfills you and satisfies you. So if you are just with a person and you're kind of lowering your goals and you're living less of the fulfilling life you were living before, then it's no good getting a relationship, because your relationship's less valuable even to you than it was before. The relationship with yourself has become less valuable because you put the relationship with that person over the relationship with yourself and your life. And so therefore it often ends up becoming unsustainable, because you like feel like something is lacking in your life, and you can't expect your person to give you everything in life to make you feel fulfilled. But if you end up in a relationship with someone where you change your life specifically to be with them, then you can end up resenting them, and vice versa, obviously. And then, you know, and then you've lost your way in life. Like when I was in a relationship this year, I kind of like I was, you know, I was listening to what they were saying, and I was changing myself in not good ways. Like I know I talk fast. I like talking fast, you know, and I'm a loud talker as well. My favorite speakers actually talk fast. So Tony Robbins, he's one of my favorite speakers. He speaks fast. He's one of the world's leading coaches. Russell Brunson, he talks really fast as well. And so I love talking fast. I like being interesting. I like causing inflections in my voice. I like projecting my voice. I've been trained in radio, so I project my voice to octanes higher than the average person. I was trained like that, so that I have like a good voice for radio. For example, I did hospital radio presenting for years. And so I don't like monotone voices. They bore me. I don't like people who just are all on one level like this and they're talking like this, and it's so boring. I'm like, so I talk how I like to feel. I talk excitable. I talk, you know, but the person in the last relationship was asking me to talk more slowly and things like that, you know. And then I found out that he actually speeds videos up on YouTube because normal speed is too slow for him. So he actually purposely speeds it up to 1.5 times. He was telling me to talk more slowly. That is completely contradictory, and actually taking away from my own personality, because I love speaking loudly and proudly, and I love having an interesting, vibrant, energetic feel about me. I don't want to make myself smaller or mediocre and, you know, for anyone. And I did change that. And then when I found out actually he likes faster speech, and he's telling me not to speak as fast. I was really like thinking, you're just a complete liar. You're a complete contradiction and liar. And so, yeah, that wasn't the only thing he lied about. But he didn't lie and say he was asexual. He was honest of fact he was heterosexual. So I was happy about that. But yeah, so people betray themselves a lot of the time as something that they think that you want, rather than portraying themselves how they truly are. And when that happens, it's a deception. And then your reality becomes very unstable and unsure, because you're not sure about what's real and what's not anymore. So when you're single, you don't have all that drama. You don't have any of that to worry about. And that's the time when I love being single. I love being single because I don't have to sexually please a guy on any level whatsoever. I know that I don't want kids, so there's never ever that anguish or worry that, I might end up with someone who changes his mind and does want kids. I don't want marriage. I used to years ago, but I think marriage, if you're tied to a contract with someone and they change, which a lot of people do change in their life, it's very difficult to get out of it. And it's a lot of heartache and pain splitting up with anyone without having an actual piece of paper that's then got to be broken with solicitors and stuff. You know what I mean? If things don't work out, or one of the people decides it's not what they want anymore. So, and living together, when you're financially tied to that person, it's very difficult if things don't work out as well, which is why I prefer to live separately. And I think it's hard to live my own life as well when I'm in a relationship. Like, I kind of feel like my identity gets a bit lost, and I like being very me. I like being very authentic, very Sandra, very real and raw, and trying to work on different time schedules. Like, if a person just does a 9 to 5 job and then they go to sleep at like 9 or 10 at night, but like I don't get up till midday, then I have a shower, so it's like 2 o'clock or whatever till I have my lunch, and then I go out and do some shopping. Like, if they want to speak to me like 8 o'clock at night, which for example my ex did, then it makes it harder for me to get stuff done, because my actual work time is later than that, and I've got a call now and I don't know who's calling me. They're trying to call me in the middle of the night, so I'm going to have to get that. So lots of love, take care, subscribe and hit the bell icon.